And we are recording. Cool.
Okay, well, let's start.
Yes.
I'm Zombie Shakespeare, and I'm Mrs. Witch,
Yeah.
Jonathan and Elizabeth. And today we're going to be talking about how to make a monster, specifically about writing them and creating them. And we're going to briefly look at what makes our favorite monsters come to life and what kind of traits we look at for when writing. And so let's look at the agenda. Okay. First, we're going to introduce us, and then we will discuss what makes monsters memorable. Next, we will compare iconic versus generic monster traits. We will look at some examples after that. Then we're going to do a couple hands-on activities, and then we're going to do some sharing. And then if we have time, we'll do some questions. And so we have a lot to get covered. So let's get started. With this group, you guys kind of already know us, but we'll do the
Yeah, just first, in case for recording.
For new people that might watch it later.
Cool. Hey, Teresa.
Oh, hello.
Hi. So I'm going to just minimize this in case you guys can actually see it.
And please mute if you're on, for this part anyway. There'll be a part to talk later.
Cool. So, I'm Elizabeth Suggs. I'm the owner of Editing Me, which is my service to help clients write, edit, publish, and market their words. If anyone needs my assistance at all in any of the stages of writing, please find me after and we can talk. I'm also co-owner of Collective Tales Publishing. We recently published our first anthology, an Amazon bestseller in our category of new horror anthologies. We also have a follow-up called Little Darkness. You can kind of see both graphics on the screen there, that focuses on flash fiction and poetry. We're going to go through, we're going to also publish Collective Fantasy and another horror anthology next year. And then after a science fiction anthology and maybe more after that. Just follow us on Instagram. You can find me, Elizabeth Suggs Author. And we're on Twitter and Facebook. If you want to submit or anything, feel free. I also host a number of online writing workshops and groups, events. Follow me at editingme.com. I do some blogs there. We talk about workshops, presentations, feedback sessions, writing retreats, and weekly focus writing sessions. And I'm also the president of the League of Utah Writers Romance chapter. So got a little bit of the stuff there. I'm going to open this up so I can see you guys again. Okay. And I'm going to go to Jonathan's.
Yes. So a little bit about me. So I've worked in publishing and editing for, maybe 15 years or so. And I'm co-owner with Liz of Collective Tales Publishing, and we're working on a number of new projects coming out in the next few years. She's mentioned some of them, but you can see them on the screen. There's the Vision Sci-Fi, and we have the Darkness Between is the horror one coming out next year. Collective Humanity, and Collective Fantasy, and Collective Chaos, which is the dystopian one.
Ooh, is this me?
This is you.
Okay, let's do a discussion. Okay, I want to find what do you guys think is a scary monster? I'll go first. My scariest monster is something more abstract. It's more, in my short story, it's a darkness thing. It's like this shadow monster. I personify darkness as this shadow with a raspy voice that slowly takes over your mind and your body. And then, how do you think monsters make you feel? You can raise your hand, but in this, you can also just unmute yourself. Feel free to talk and ask questions. I'm going to admit one more person.
Oh, we forgot to mention we're shooting live at Marissa's bookstore.
Yes.
We should open with that.
We are at Marissa's bookstore live.
Hey, you were nice enough to let us shoot you.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any scary monsters that they want to talk about?
I can go. So I really like monsters that. Well, one thing that's kind of scary is like a monster that can just appear. Okay, so I was like watching American Werewolf in London, and I thought one of the scariest parts was actually the part that's supposed to be funny, where his friend shows up and there's all these dead guys, because no one else can see him. And one of my biggest fears is like a monster that only I see.
Oh, because you're like, you don't know if you're going
crazy. Like if anyone else has seen Lovecraft Country, there's this part where the girl is being chased by these like creatures in this like train station, and no one else can see it. And so it's like, oh no, what if people think I'm crazy? That's like my nightmare, I think. And people not believing me about something. Alex,
Yeah, we're able to take our masks off right now just because there's no one else in this bookstore. That's the only reason why we don't have masks. So that's the only reason we have masks. But yeah, feel free. Chat. I'll mute my thing, I think.
I can.
Okay.
I can share a monster. I was going to say that for me, a lot of the monsters, like the creatures that have been created for books and movies, are not like the scariest monster for me. The scariest monsters are the familiar ones that, so like the people that seem good and innocent, and underneath it all are actually the most vile and wicked of creation. And so and the reasons behind why they're doing things and stuff are so frightening. And I think for me that's what makes the monster even more terrifying is when you don't suspect it and you don't see it coming.
Right. Do you think that cold cases then are the scariest for you?
I don't know about cold cases. It's just, just in general, people that are so alien to me in the way that they think and, carry themselves. For example, like in the Game of Thrones, Joffrey, just the things that he did, he was a terrifying monster to me.
Yeah.
And the same with, the other kid, the Baron, I forget his name, but anyway, some of those characters, those were more terrifying to me than any monster that has 3 legs or 5 eyeballs or crawls on a web.
That's true, because I can see that, because those are monsters that actually exist, that actually will cause, like, you could wake up one day and someone could be there and be this monster. But vampires, you'll probably never meet a vampire.
Probably. Only probably.
So I completely agree with that, Jake. So those are terrifying. Anyone else?
Alex looks like
oh yeah, and so Alex is going to come to my side, just so it's easier with audio.
Hey everyone. So I think one of the things that scares me
is I think when I think of monsters, I think of kind of the traditional ones. You think of like the creature from the Black Lagoon or Dracula.
Right.
And, the ones I think are the most scary and are the ones that you're drawn to. So it's like Dracula, it's terrifying when you think of what Dracula is. But
yeah, because he's like a societal critique.
Yeah, but yet there's people in his world that are drawn to him. There's people that are drawn to the vampires. So that makes it a little bit tricky.
Right. And I agree. And I'm going to have Alex take my spot for just a second, just because of the audio, so then he can tell his thing as well.
Hey guys, the thing that came to mind when I was thinking about this was when you're fighting or running away from a monster and you feel helpless against it.
Like that helpless,
yeah, like I don't know, you have like a gun or something and you shoot it, but it doesn't do any good.
Or like a nightmare where you like can't really run. Does anyone ever have that where they can't run very fast? I actually, side note, I run backwards, so I'm able to run fast. Is that super weird?
It's hilarious.
Whatever works.
Because if I run forwards, I won't be able to actually go fast. Anyway, sorry, it's tangent.
That's really insane.
I haven't had a nightmare for a while, but
I used to have a recurring nightmare where I knew what was going to happen, and it always ended the same way, where I'm like walking, and the sidewalks where they're like uneven, trip, and then I'd be like boom, like red, like I hit my face on the concrete.
So, but yeah, you have the running, like just not being able to get away from the monster.
Yeah, yeah,
like-
just feeling powerless against it.
Well, and I've been reading a lot of scary stories lately because I have just a huge list, and there's a lot of that, like the recurrent theme where it's just like even if they think like years down the line they won't see the monster, they'll suddenly it'll come back, and the monster could be in the form of a human or it could be in form of
Ooh.
like the devil.
Have you ever seen It Follows?
No.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
But I heard
It's based on one of those, like, I don't know if they made it up or if it's just it's like one of those urban myths that they just tell. And it's like, yeah, I think that's the deal with it. You have sex and then that person, the monster starts chasing you until you have sex with someone else and it starts chasing you. And it'll start killing everybody down the line. Because it's like teenagers like, oh, you can't have sex because the monster will chase you. It's like an STD. Yeah. But like, oh, it's so scary because like the monster's really slow and it could look like anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like thinking, okay, I would move to an island. I've never tried anybody ever again.
Yeah, but the monster would find you.
Yeah, but even then, what if it swims?
I don't know.
What if it
Stop.
What if it walks through water because it doesn't need to breathe? It's just like the zombie or the skeleton guys in Pirates of the Caribbean where they walk through the water in the ocean.
I don't know. Okay, you're messing with me. I don't like this. You're ruining my plan. Well, we should move on.
Does anyone else have any thoughts or anything? And I realized Teresa was saying that she'll be doing some stuff. So it just with that, and also if anyone has, if they can't talk right now or like any time in their presentation, you can feel free to add it to the chat. If you're looking at this meeting later, because we'll have this recorded, if you're looking at it later, feel free to comment, make some comments, or you can even message on the post it up on the Collective Darkness Facebook page or meetup. Just create a discussion and talk about it. Don't be afraid, even if you relate. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we'll move on. Am I okay to click?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Gary brought up.
Hold on. Okay.
Gary brought up the classics, which is where we want to kind of start.
Yeah.
And by classics, I mean more like the period between the 1800s to like the early 1900s. So when we're talking about the classics, we're talking. I mean, I think about like the Universal Studios classics like Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, so forth. And so what's appealing about these guys, right, is they're like well known. So there's something about them that's like lasting a long time in public imagination.
Right. Why do these monsters stay for so long?
Yeah. So we were kind of like talking about this a lot, and we were trying to figure out what is it about them that, and we see them come back again and again and again, like reboots and remakes and sequels and blah, blah, blah. But there's something about these characters specifically that is so engaging. So we kind of have this theory that these specific monsters represent archetypes that we see later iterations of. So, for example, Dracula is kind of like the epitome of vampire, right? But there's also a lot of identical characters. We see a lot of vampires that are basically just Dracula ripoffs, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the famous ripoff of Dracula is Count Orloff from Nosferatu.
It's Orlok.
Orlok.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, I think we
Orlok.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was Orloff, and then we looked it up. It was Orlok.
Orlok, yeah. The German, like it went to Germany or something. That movie.
It was a German-made film, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
from like 19.
Apparently, it was burned. Like they destroyed all.
Well,
like
yeah,
because
it was copyright infringement.
Yeah.
So we were lucky to have any of it.
I'm conflicted on liking this movie.
Yeah, it has some iconic film. It's like, wow, it's like going up the wall, and there's some, but like we've never heard of Count Orlok in anything else, in part because of the copyright thing. But like, he's not really a separate character. I mean, how is he different than Dracula? He's not really. I mean, and we see this again and again in new iterations of vampire movies and vampire books. It's like, I know there's all these other vampires, but I don't remember their names because they're not that special to me.
Right.
They're not as memorable. So when we think about like, okay, if you're doing a vampire story, don't just have another vampire. If you want, well, I mean, you can, but like if you really want the character, I mean, I'm talking about the monster to be memorable, then they need to have some sort of trait that is unique to them. So like if your vampire is like, I'm cool and suave and I'm like tempting you and I'm like, ooh, and then I turn into a bat, right? That's just vampire. That's just Dracula all over again, right?
Right.
And we could go on like hours. We could talk about what makes stories scary. We could talk about plausibility, symbolic representation of cultural fears. We could talk about the sympathetic qualities of certain characters, like Frankenstein's monster in the book, right? Things like that. But today we're just going to focus primarily on making unique monsters that are like memorable in and of themselves. So like when you see something, you know, oh, that's this monster, and they're that unique.
Okay. Click.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we have two different screens, so it's like weird. So I want us to think about making traits that make a monster specific or memorable. We know what makes Dracula unique. For instance, I can give you a different unique vampire. Jonathan made a vampire pony. So in Padua's eyes, it's a sparkly vampiric pony. Oh, yes. Here, I'll show you the book. In Collective Darkness. And so you can laugh, but it's actually really scary and serious. But think about it, it's like memorable. It's the pony has sparkly, like it's sparkling in the moonlight, it has crimson eyes, and it also can kick you across the barn if it needs to, right? So it doesn't have to just use its fangs. But that is an image that might be lasting after you finish the story. Like if for me, when I read it, like I will forever remember it because that's weird. But it's good. It's good to be weird because that's what creates things, you know, like that's just what creates like, you know, excitement and like a new breed of different monsters. So we just mentioned Dracula and vampires and Padua. Sparkly vampiric pony is an example. So taking something new or old and revamping it, right?
Vamping.
So here I've listed several iconic monsters and the generic counterparts. What separates the iconic from the generic, the specific. Let's start from the top. What makes Frankenstein more memorable than any other reanimated corpse, right? See those question marks? Now it's your turn. Let's take 3 to 5 minutes to transform a generic monster into something entirely different, or be a trendsetter and invent a new monster. It doesn't have to be based on a classic. So then we'll have an opportunity to share and discuss. It can be monsters from like that are not on this list as well. So I'll mute myself and feel free to get your pens out, your Word or Google Docs up and just start writing something. Yeah, we'll also do it too. Yeah. And you're going to need to say what you said again.
Oh, dang it. Okay. I was just going to say, we're just focusing on the traits right now. So if you just think of like a new type of vampire, for example, or a new type of reanimated corpse, or a new type of mummy, or a new type of werewolf, that's got traits that are specific to this new creature that are unique.
Yeah. And the timer is set now. We've got about a minute and a half left. All right, everyone. Timer is up. If you need more time, we're going to be doing more activities later with these. So if you wanted to expand, feel free later. But just so we can move on, who wants to share? Who wants to share their monster?
I can go first if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so this is the one I just came up with. It's a were mollusk. Okay, this is dumb. Okay, on the equinox, this person, who's probably a member from cult or something, I don't know, is transformed into a half person, half mollusk. It's got a sharp beak and some tentacles, large, bulging purple eyes, and a hunger for the bones of children. Yeah, it has green and black swirling like shell pieces, and it shoots like a toxic ink that dissolves everything but the bones so that it can eat the bones.
You.
Yeah. So it's got traits from different mollusks,
Right.
like octopuses and whatever those ones with the spiral thing are.
Mhm.
And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, we got you. We got you.
I haven't done any research yet. Okay, that just came up with. You know, the mollusks. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. I can go next. Mine is pretty silly too. My monster has leathery skin with jewels all over its skin, like little dots. These jewels, though, are crystallized eyeballs of their victims.
Ooh.
It stalks the day when people are seeing with their eyes. That's all I got.
Seeing with their eyes.
Yeah.
And then they're left in the darkness.
Yeah.
Reminds me of a story last week.
Yeah.
It's like you took my idea kind of and like we're like went in a different direction.
Yeah.
Like stealing eyesight, but on a totally different way.
Yeah.
That's where I go.
Cool.
I'll go.
Oh, look, I go first.
Okay. Yeah, Gary, feel free.
Yeah, so mine's kind of half description and part narrative that I wrote.
Mhm.
But what this is it's about it's about somebody who is transformed into this monster-like creature when they hear Gypsy by Fleetwood Mac.
Ah,
Oh man, they have like stuff their ears. Like,
So Gypsy plays in the background, and before the second chorus, Anna faded away and Drusilla emerged. She worked her way through the crowd, pushing and shoving. When the fangs emerged, she was in a position ready to strike. With a bolt, she sprang past the bodyguards and approached the podium. The mayor paused his speech, looked at the woman beside him, then shrieked as her fangs sunk into his jugular vein.
cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, as you can see, I need a lot of work in this monster genre.
Oh no, it's great. I love it.
that's why we're doing that.
Yeah.
To help,
And I love the music. I love the idea with the music being
like a trigger.
yeah, exactly. So you don't see that as a trigger. Usually the trigger is like night or day. And so
Well, that's why I did the equinox. I'm like,
Yeah.
What's something that's
Yeah,
like
that's
a trigger?
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
only annual, but like instead of just the moon, because that's boring. That's been done.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I thought, well, the equinox. Then, like, once you change one thing, and then you start getting new ideas.
Exactly. Okay, so Alex is going to take my spot so he can share. So.
I kind of went back to this old movie that I saw, like, I don't know, when I was a teenager. It was from the 50s or 60s or something. It was called The Blob.
Oh yeah, that movie scared the crap out of me as a kid. Even though it doesn't make sense, why would you could just easily escape the blob, right?
Yeah, it seemed really dumb, but it also was kind of scary. So it kind of stood out to me as like a unique monster. It's like just this big amorphous blob that just sort of sucks everything in.
Yeah, it just absorbs like everything, right?
Yeah, it's like everything.
Ew.
And I just thought, what if you had something like that, except it's just like a big blob of eyeballs?
Ew,
Just eyeballs,
and they just like they have little eyelids and they open and close and like stare at you.
I think that's a
and
bad
suck
guy
you
from Link to the Past. You ever play that one?
Uh-uh.
There's like it's just pile of goop and there's a bunch of eyeballs, and it's like shoots lasers and stuff.
Oh,
It's
you better
electric.
get on that so you can take that idea before they.
Just have to add the lasers to it.
Yeah.
The lasers and the electricity. Gosh, you have to use the bow and arrow to defeat it, FYI.
But he has to make it unique, so it can't be lasers.
Yeah.
I'm sure they weren't lasers because it's like a fantasy story. It's a fantasy video game.
I'll have to figure that part out. Thanks,
Shame.
guys.
Does it like roll around everywhere, like in like a big pile?
It's kind of like a snail. Slurps.
Ooh, gross.
Ew.
Anybody else? Want to go? Shake maybe.
I'll share something really quick. I didn't go into as much detail because I was kind of going through a list of different
Well, that's fine.
creations, but I was thinking about the mummy character and how we don't really do that to our corpses anymore. I mean, in a way we do, but we don't wrap them up and store them. But I was thinking, I don't know what they're called in English, but when I lived in Texas, they had these places called the Ropa-Dig, which is like big warehouses where all of the donated clothing go from across the country to get sorted. And I was thinking, what it would be like if you were a worker there and, you were sorting stuff and then the dump trucks came and just dumped off these mountains of clothes on top of you, and then they bound you up into these big bundles and sent you off. And so obviously you would die, but then I was kind of thinking about how that clothing could become the wraps that create the mummy.
Oh no,
So
a new mummy.
Yeah, so instead of like bandages and stuff, it's like old torn clothing and rags and things.
Becomes like the modern mummy.
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of these, I don't want to get too much into it if we talk about it, but a lot of these are like, based off of like certain things like consumerism or like, desire and stuff. And so it feels like that could be like a critique on society. So that'd be a really good monster. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. There, do you see Dawn of the Dead? There's been remakes of that. Yeah, but the original was the zombies were around, and it was supposed to be a critique of consumerism, because while the zombies are out, these few survivors lock themselves in a mall and try on clothes and put on makeup and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's true. I really liked that movie, the new version. I know
They're both good.
Yeah, but I don't know why. I think it's just because I grew up with the newer version.
Yeah.
Not saying that I watched a lot of R-rated shows when I was a kid. So
Day of the Dead is my favorite. But that one's more about science versus the military and the breakdown of society.
Oh.
Yeah. I saw the there's a quick note, fun fact. I saw the original at a drive-in, and I just ordered a pizza from the shack. And it's when I got the pizza, brought it to the car and sat down. And that's when the real gory part started, and I'm trying to eat a pizza and all of a sudden the pizza wasn't very good.
Like, I'll eat this in a minute.
Cool. Well, should we move on?
Cool. And if anyone wants to share later too, again, you can go on comments, message, any of that. Oops. Okay, cool.
Okay. So we kind of talked about how when you're creating a new story, and I mean, it's okay to sometimes use generic whatever's, and sometimes I do in my stories. But if you want a really memorable monster, sometimes you just make something totally new. But it's also okay to kind of take an existing story or existing character and like kind of finish the story. So I have an example of that. So, I mean, you should all be familiar with the Pied Piper of something, the city in Germany. It's the old German story, right? And every version I'd ever read or heard, it ends the same way. The Pied Piper. Well, okay. So for those of you who don't know, the Pied Piper is about this town, this little village, and it's infested with rats, and so they hire this guy who has a magic flute to lead all the rats away. And then when he comes back to collect his money, they refuse to pay him. So in revenge, he's pretty sick, I guess, he leads all the children away. And you never really find out where the children go. At least in the stories I've read. So I was thinking, like, what happened to the kids? You know, are they lead them to a river and they drowned, or did he whatever. So I had an idea and I made a poem out of it. And this was actually published in Little Darkness, available for 99 cents right now on Amazon. So I'll read the poem and then kind of talk about my process for where I came up with it. So, the Piper's Song. This boy is deserving of a fate unnerving. Echoing the walls is the death that crawls. The lad will not fail to face tooth and nail of the mad piper's rats that devour whole cats. The deadly throng was reigned by my song, and so paid at last the rats end their fast. Do you not fear the last sound you'll hear? Is my tune too weak under that deafening squeak? I think most of you guys have already heard this in the feedback session or something, but yeah. So I thought, well, he's got the rats and he can control the rats. He's got the kids, so maybe the rats ate the kids, you know? That's pretty hard, right? So,
Right.
so this idea was like, where does the story end? Like, I wanted to continue it, but also have it really kind of gruesome. So it's almost like even way scarier, not scary, but like darker necessarily than the original. So you can do that with some other stories, like for a vampire story. Like, let's say you wanted to finish Dracula, it's sort of already complete. But I know in some versions, Mina becomes a vampire, right? And then her story goes on or whatever. So yeah, that was kind of my whole thinking.
Yeah, and I want to do like a whole presentation like in another time about the Piper song, because it's like or the Pied Piper, because it's so, I don't know, I feel like it's such a mystery because it could be real and but we don't know all the stuff. So I just think it just like a side note too, apparently there are a lot of rats in a certain part of like near Sugar House, like, or something, like my dad was saying about it, and it was like, yeah, it was like maybe near the freeway, and it's just, apparently he was like, yeah, my dad was like driving, he's like, yeah, I saw all these rats going, because there was this guy banging on a metal thing, and so the rats were going all around. There were like hundreds, he said, and I was like, that is horrifying. And anyway, it just reminded me of the Pied Piper.
Ever
The
heard of
Piper
the Rat
song.
King?
You gross. Sorry, they're not my friends. You know, they're kind of gross. Like they can live their lives, but just away from me, 6 feet away minimum. They need to do distancing. So, but anyway, just a side disgusting note. We can move.
Okay. Oh, I'm doing this one too.
Okay.
That's fine. 2 in a row.
By the way, that was good, Jonathan. I like that. Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I really like that poem. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about signature style. So I will. Or I'll just go like this or something. Okay, so let's discuss some modern monsters. These characters have vivid personality and they have signature visual elements. So when I say modern, I'm talking about in the last like 30, 40 years, right? So like these are characters that are really popular and they're also super recognizable. There's something about them either have catchphrases. Some of them are cheesy, or they have specific weapons, or they dress a certain way so that like they're very eye catching. You know them right away. So let's so with this. So we'll play a little game, right? There's one of our little characters, right? The voices. Actually, I don't even know that guy's name. The little bro.
He's just
His face, you know the face.
like,
Ugh.
let's play a game.
Yeah.
Another one?
The saw guy. Okay, yeah, do the next one. Okay, so I'm gonna show you just a few real quick signature elements, and then you guys can just shout out what they're from because I'm sure you're recognize them.
And then another one.
Wait, you're supposed to shout it out.
Oh, sorry. If anyone knows what this is.
This would be pretty easy. Someone's shouting.
He does.
It's a Christmas sweater.
He goes to people in their dreams.
Say it, Alex.
Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger.
Freddy
Yeah,
Krueger.
good job.
It's his red and green sweater. It's got the stripes on it.
Yes, very Christmassy.
It does look Christmassy.
Okay.
Okay, how about this one? Anybody? You know
Really?
this one?
There was a fight with him and Freddy Krueger.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
that's
movie.
my favorite.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jason Voorhees. Yeah,
In the
Jason. Yeah,
it's just a ski mask, but it's like whenever I see a ski mask, I'm thinking Jason.
yeah.
Right. Okay, this one's kind of fun. Do you know this one?
it's it.
Yeah, exactly. Red balloons. When I was a kid, a red balloon meant the movie The Red Balloon, you know, the French movie with the little boy, and he's like, oh, I got a little red balloon. Well, there's also that German song. But
Yeah, I
now
always think of
it's
the
owned by
red
that
balloon.
clown. It's his thing now.
Yeah.
Right. So what I was just
Is there
thinking.
room for it?
Oh yeah. Well, now it's your turn. So we just want to take like, I don't know, 3 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes again. That's fine.
Yeah. So we want to. You can either take your original monster that we made in the last exercise,
Mhm.
or you can dump that and start new. We want to come up with some sort of signature like motif, I guess, or visual cue.
Something to get people.
Yeah. So like when you see that, you know that's a monster. So like Freddy's sweater, or like the red balloon, or the mask, like just something, some kind of element that's visual. It doesn't have to be like a slasher type. That's just,
It's just the most common, I feel like, right now.
well, yeah, this is because those are popular now. But like with the Mummy, it's like the bandages, right? Or like
Right.
with Frankenstein, the movie, there's the bolts on his neck. Right? When you see bolts, you think, yeah, like Frankenweenie is like another example of like similar to Padua, where it's like Padua is like a pony vampire, and like Frankenweenie. Everyone who's seen this movie, it's really
Yeah,
funny.
it's the Nightmare Before Christmas guy.
Yeah,
He made it.
Tim
It was like
Burton.
his old, yeah.
My
Tim
kids
Burton.
watched it the other day, and they like really liked it.
Ah,
And there's a live action one that they made in the 80s. But like, okay, so like the bolts you see on the dog, and you know like immediately that's a Frankenstein dog. Right?
yeah. Okay.
So how many minutes do you want to do?
Let's do 5 minutes, and I'll start the timer now. So if you guys are done early, you know, you can let us know, and then we can end early. But let's just do 5 minutes for right now. Okay, starting now. And feel free to make up a unique name or nickname. So
For the creature.
yeah, for your creature. So you have about 30 seconds left. Okay, timer is up. Does anyone want to share?
I can go first if you want.
Okay.
I don't mind. Okay, so I was sticking with the were mollusk idea. And then I thought, okay, what are some signature looks for this thing? So I thought it would be fun if I had a permanent barbed harpoon embedded in its neck that it can never take out, even when it's human. So it's still kind of stuck in there. So like I said, and you were talking about Moby Dick, so I thought, oh, it's going to be pure white when it's transformed, like Moby Dick. And then when he's a human, or she, I don't pick the gender yet.
You could be asexual.
Sure.
What are mollusks? Aren't they like asexual?
No, I mean octopuses have sex.
Oh, I guess I'm thinking of the little squishy ones, not a mollusk like an octopus. I'm
Well, like a snail, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I was just
mollusk is a big,
I was imagining a snail this whole time.
Well, there's shell
snail
parts.
eating your bones.
There's like lots of. It's got different parts from different mollusks. That's why I went with mollusk instead of like squid. Anyway, and then the human has like a tattoo of a human hand with like wiggly tentacle fingers. So it's like think of the hand, but then it's like whoop, whoop, on the like almost transforming. So if it has a hand that's like maybe like one hand is like clack clack clack, and the other hand is or like huge tentacle. The other hand is like a regular hand but with tentacle fingers. And then it's like it has a beak and it's like blah, and it spits out the ink, onto the kids, and then eats their bones. Everything else dissolves.
Gross.
I should say this idea.
Yeah, you should. I know mine's just on my phone. Mine, I also went with my previous one about the crystallized eyeball man or woman. I was actually thinking of woman because I don't know. Anyway, so but the thing is fishnet stockings with crystals. So this person.
Were you just looking at your legs?
I mean, I am wearing fishnet stockings with crystals on them.
Like, please.
It was the same monster that I kind of tried to create earlier.
Okay,
but
cool.
This one would be the Dracula character would have a red veil that she pulls up as a face covering whenever she's in that monster mode. And she has bright, like shining red eyes. Her eyes turn red. So she's got this red veil and the red eyes, and maybe there can be something on the veil. I don't know. But, and just side note, I thought of Drusilla because I thought that character in Buffy the Vampire Slayer was really frightening. So there you go.
Ooh. Cool. Do you want to go out? Okay. He will go my spot.
Well, I also decided to add to the monster that I was thinking of earlier with the big blob of eyeballs that sort of just eat everything. And it kind of reminded me of this folktale of these children with just pitch black eyes where there's like no discernible color or anything. There's no whites in it. It's just pure black. And I thought, okay, what if the creepy eyeball blob is also all the eyeballs are just pitch black and really creepy looking.
Yeah.
And it just like shows up at night or something, and you see these creepy black eyeballs blinking at you, and then they eat you.
Ew.
Oh, I have an idea. Okay, so if you like this idea for your story. So like, let's say the massive eyeballs roll in. It'll roll over us. It'll dissolve and eat every part of us except for the eyeballs. And the eyeballs now become part of that. Ew. And they're still your eyes, so you get to see everything.
Oh, I like that.
So now it's just you're just part of the bath of eyes.
You're just taken in prison forever.
And the head eyeballs are the ones that go and pick out who's next.
And maybe one of the people that got sucked in is like trying to communicate Morse code.
Oh, that's great. Oh, or also like you realize it because like let's say that one of the characters has like foggy eye, like jacked up eye and a regular eye, and then you see that later, you're like, wait, I recognize those eyes. Or it's like, those are my mom's eyes. And then they get swallowed.
Okay.
They get
Really creative juices flowing. Okay, for sure you need to write that story and submit it to a thing.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share? Okay. Cool. Well, thanks, you guys. Let's see what happens next.
Next slide, you believe.
All right. Okay. Now it's your turn to write monsters. So everything that you've used so far, hopefully you can use it in this flash fiction activity. We're going to write some flash fiction. If you guys don't know what a flash fiction is, it's a short and complete work of fiction. So it's going to have, like, an intro, an introduction, a middle, and an end, and it's all complete. You can also do a poem like Jonathan, or
It just needs to have a narrative
narrative, and it's small. Yeah, and it's short. And the reason why for the short is just because we don't have a lot of time, right?
Well, that we want, if these are good, we want them in order.
Yeah, we can put them
between the darkness
between. Yeah, we're still taking submissions for that one. So if you guys want to potentially have it in there, we are really only looking for flash fiction or poetry and stuff. So don't be scared, right? I know it's going to be rough. Definitely don't worry about like edits or anything like that. You don't have to share at the end if you don't want to, but we highly encourage it. So the writing prompt is a young person encounters your monster or a monster that they've never seen before. What happens next? So I'm going to give, is 10 minutes too long? Do people like 10 minutes? Okay, we're going to do 10 minutes. Unless that's, yeah. Okay, so 10 minutes. I'm going to add my counter now. Just remember that this is supposed to be new, unique, and not generic. And again, we can share afterwards if you guys like. Okay, so timer starting now. You have 5 minutes. Less than a minute now. Okay, finish up your sentence and the timer is up. The time is up. Does anyone want to share?
You want me to go? Are you looking at me?
That's fine.
I can go. It's not finished.
That's okay. Mine isn't finished either.
It's rough. Okay. And I have to add dollar tags. Tag, you're it. I'm always it. Just count and we'll hide. Fine. The children ran off to hide in various locations around the park. Bushes, behind a boulder, kneeling on the footbridge. One inventive child even crawled inside a mostly empty garbage can. Julie counted to 100. She only skipped a couple dozen numbers in her count. When she lifted her head, the sun was suddenly high, and the sun was drawn out from the world, leaving a purple haze. Ready or not, she stumbled around the wood, dazed by the sudden noonday eclipse. It was, after all, the equinox, but she did not know it. It's an eclipse on the equinox. This has got to be special, right? Probably, I don't know. She looked everywhere, but did not find her playmates. Vicky, Chuck, Marcy. She found herself in a clearing. A circle of robed people surrounded a man who was being dragged out of the pond. They raised their hands and chanted. Julie didn't want to interrupt, but she wanted the adults to help her find her friends. Then lightning flashed and struck the drowned body, quickening it with the life force of dark. Gaia? I don't know why I said Gia. Stupid English. It was born of darkness and fire and music dreadful. The body broke free of the ground, erupting in a fit of sputtering mucus and slime. It was awakened from death by the healing powers of the Dark Dominion. It became transformed into a creature of muscular spelled with proportions. And then I was going to describe that it's got a beak and then blah, blah, blah. And then the rest of the story, I was going to finish. They're like, it's weak, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, a child. And they grab her. And then it spits on the ink on her. And then it dissolves and then it jumps into the bones. Which is what I described before. And that's basically the story.
Nice. Good job.
Yeah,
That's good.
that would make sense in this case. There'll be later, maybe.
I like the way it starts. So tag, you're it, and then you're immediately pulled into it. That was good.
Yeah, so she's like alone at this park, and all of a sudden there's like an eclipse, and she's like, oh, what's going on?
Yep, that was good.
Thanks.
Do you want to go, Gary?
Okay, I'll give it a shot. Like you say, I'm not very good at this stuff, but here we
That's
go.
okay.
So I've got a new monster other than the other one. So here we go. It was that magical time of the day, twilight. The sun had set. Darkness was encroaching upon the land as the street lights and living room lamps sprang to life to offer sanctum from the void. Jackson sat on a rock, his favorite rock, perched on the hill overlooking the town, and watched the horizon fading dimmer and the lights flashing on in defense. What? Jackson asked out loud. The flicker, mirage, whatever it was that distorted the remaining light, disappeared behind a juniper tree at the bottom of the hill. That was weird, he said, not knowing whether he should trust his eyes. He continued scanning the town. He thought of the backward, close-minded people who had held him down, berated him, and bullied him since the first grade. Fools, he thought. One day they will see. I'll prove them wrong. I'll get out of here. I'll show them I won't be stuck here for life. No, he saw the shimmer again. It was closer, 10 feet away. He heard a buzz. Then he saw a flash. It was the last thing he would ever see. He was gone.
Oh, no. Good job. Cool. Teresa has one. I think, does she need me to read or does she want me to read?
I don't know, does she?
Oh, okay, cool. I got it. Okay, so Teresa can't talk right now, so that's why I'm doing hers. Okay, it came at me in the night. I was defenseless, groggy with sleep and unsettling dreams. My eyes snapped open in horror. It clawed at my face, suffocating me as it growled deeply. Its slanted yellow eyes seemed to glow in the dark. Its hind talons dug into my chest as it pushed itself farther onto my face. I was sure to die tonight. Its sharp teeth hovered briefly above my eyes before it started tearing at my hair, chewing viciously. A claw sunk into my earlobe, and I tried to yelp, but my mouth was completely covered. I inhaled sharply through my nose, coming to my senses as I woke more fully. I reached up and lifted the beast from my face. Your food dish is empty, I take it? I said to my cat. I like it. Yes. Spooky.
Alex, you have one?
You want to go? Okay, Alex will go now.
So I forgot to bring my laptop, so I didn't type it out. But I have a general idea for a story where maybe there's a security guard who gets called into a kitchen or something, thinking that it's just a false alarm, but then he finds the big blob of eyeballs, and they come up with a better name for it. But
I mean, it is pretty disturbing. You don't have to say.
That captures it all.
Mm-mm-mm.
And then he kind of fights against it. He tries to use like a bunch of knives and stuff, and it doesn't really do much. But then he hears one of the eyeballs tapping in Morse code. And it says salt, salt, salt over and over again. So he takes some salt, he throws some salt on it, and then it dies or something.
Yay!
Or something. It dries up.
It dries up like a
Feels like that's way.
You
Roll
know. Gross.
That's my idea.
Love it.
Yeah, me too. You have to write it now. Good.
Send it to me.
Okay, I'll share mine. It's also kind of rough, and I only have 3 paragraphs, so it's not very long. Jonathan had like so many. I was like, how did you write that fast? Okay. Gloria Thornfield grabbed at her bleeding heel. It was late, and she still had another mile or so left to walk. It wouldn't be so bad if she hadn't been wearing her crystal fishnets and heels, but she had forgotten her sneakers. Paul had distracted her this morning with his terrible cries. So unless she wanted to walk over glass and rocks, she had to keep her heels on. Something rustled by her in the darkness. She straightened, holding in her breath. She wasn't in the best part of town, and she knew her skimpy outfit was sure to attract attention, but like her shoes, she didn't have her normal wear. She cursed her distracted self, then cursed herself again for speaking. Her voice seemed to excite whatever was in the bushes. The branches shifted back and forth, as if the very plant was breathing. And then I didn't have any more time to read. But
Then what happens?
So it's going to be the leathery, crystally thing. So I decided that it's people who wear crystal fishnets that get captured because it attracts them, and then the monster's going to take her eyeballs and make its own crystal fishnet things. So many eyeball stories. Cool. Anyone else want to share?
That's everybody but Jake.
Yeah.
I can share. I didn't quite get to the reveal of the monster, but I think you'll get where I'm at
Ooh,
by
cool.
sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. The beeping of the semi-truck in reverse woke James from his cat nap. He looked up at the clock on the loading bay's wall inside. The truck was 2 hours late. It was going to be a long night, and Sam had some explaining to do. James stood up from the makeshift chair he created out of downturned sorting bins and guided the driver back into the stall. Sorry about the late arrival, James. The load shifted and I had to take it slower. Yeah, no more excuses, Sam. You've been late for the last 3 deliveries. Come on, help me get this unloaded so I can go home for the night. Sam opened up the truck's rear doors and clamped them to the sides. James grabbed the pallet jack and started removing stacks of used clothing one at a time. After a few minutes, Sam joined him with another pallet jack, and together they had the truck unloaded in just under 30 minutes. Let me verify the bundles really quick and you can be on your way. James grabbed the clipboard and disappeared back inside the warehouse. Sam waited for a few minutes and started getting antsy. You almost done? How long does it take to count 40 pallets? Shut your trap, Sam. I'm almost done. A muffled crash sounded from within the warehouse, followed by another curse. Damn it, James, who the hell bundled these? The whole stack just tipped over. Not my problem, Sam. Let them deal with it in the morning. Just sign the papers so we can go home. What the? James's voice grew muffled and Sam couldn't hear what he'd said. Crap, come on, man, let me go. Sam climbed back onto the dock and walked into the warehouse. He walked between the pallets of bundled clothing looking for James. In the next to last row, Sam found the tumbled stack of clothing. The steel bands holding the bundle of ties and belts had failed and laid across the pathway. Of course it had to be the ties. This is going to take forever to pick up. He started climbing over the pile to look for Sam and felt his ankle twist when he stood on something rounded. He looked down and realized that he was standing on a shoe. And then it's going to go from there, and he's going to find his coworker basically bundled up in the ties.
Yeah,
No,
gross.
no. Cool.
A bundle of joy. That's what you should call the story.
And there's your title.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for sharing. So that's it for this presentation. If you guys have any questions, feel free if you want to submit to Darkness Between. Just go to collectivetalespublishing@gmail.com. We have other submissions opening up soon, but that's going to be the horror.
one.
That's a scary one, and that's the most current. And then please feel free to follow us on Instagram. We've got collective_tales_publishing, and then me, Elizabeth Suggs author, and then of course Jonathan Illusions with the A_of_grandeur_.
Yeah, it was taken without the underscore.
Oh man. So yeah. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or anything before we end the presentation?
Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Good job. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Okay.
Thanks.
Well,
Good
I'm
job.
gonna stop the recording now.